Hey, another rousing episode of Urban Politics coming at you live and direct. I am your humble host, Fizz and Music. And without further ado, let's get into this like a car and drive because there's all types of delicious politics for us to sink our teeth into. Number one, let's talk about gun control. Hot topic, can never get any movement on it. Joseph Biden signed legislation to combat so-called ghost guns. Ghost guns or homemade guns or makeshift firearms that lack a serial number. You'll need a background check finally to get these. That's great. Thank God for that. He promised gun legislation on his first couple of days in office, so it's good that he's delivering on that. It comes after a slew of shootings in California, in Georgia, and in Colorado. So that's huge right there. There's been a lot of gun violence as of late, so people were looking at Congress to do something about it. Of course, there was a lot of inaction from Congress. Why? A lot of them get a lot of money from the NRA. So it is what it is. But Joe Biden, he promised some movement on that, and he got in there, and he's delivering. So there's that. You know, I got to give credit where credit is due. He called it a blemish on the nation and a national embarrassment. He also appointed a director of the ATF. They said there hasn't been a director over there since 2015. That's ridiculous. The ATF, for those who don't know, is the Division of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. They legislate those three things. So to think there hasn't been a director over there since 2015, that's not good, to say the least. Referring to Congress sending thoughts and prayers, he said, enough prayers. It's time for some action. And that is true, man. You're always hearing about, oh, we sending our thoughts and our prayers, thoughts and prayers, you know, and, people made jokes about it on the internet or whatever, but it's like, it's not a joke. It's really pathetic that that's all you got is thoughts and prayers. We need no thoughts and prayers. We need action. And that's what Mr. Biden is saying. Right now, we need some action. He was also saying, due to the gridlock in Congress, executive orders is probably the only way that you'll see things get done. Unfortunately, Barack Obama, he went this route. When you go this route, sure, you do get some things done. But the thing about an executive order is, if I, as an executive, write that executive order, then the next president who comes in can change that executive order, and it ain't nothing. You know what I'm saying? It's real quick and easy. So that's the only thing that's really bad about an executive order. But, that's Biden trying to do what he can do with the power that he has. There's been gridlock in Congress over this gun thing for a long time. There will be, because like I said, the NRA has deep pockets, and they have given a lot of money to a lot of congressmen and women. They've gotten them in their pockets, or they're in their pockets, or whatever, however you want to look at it. So when you're giving somebody millions of dollars, they are beholden to you. It is what it is. You kind of own them. So due to this gridlock in Congress, executive orders will be the only way that we're going to see some movement on this. But at least, Joe Biden is doing something that a lot of presidents don't do. Here's something, he's keeping to his word to this. And this is not anything that's making him popular out there, because gun violence, most of these guys shy away from it because they want to keep their money. So it is what it is. Talked about stripping gun makers of liability protection. Said that's at the top of the legislative priority list. Saying, what if this were the case for big tobacco? Now, what he's talking about there is, that big tobacco ended up, they were even saying that something about we're poised to have like maybe only 7% of people over the age of 18 being interested in cigarettes or something like that. You can look those numbers up, but they've went way down. Why? Because a lot of these tobacco outlets and places selling cigarettes have been sued by people whose loved ones have died or been sick from tobacco and stuff like that. And that kind of crippled the tobacco industry. And that has led to them not having the steam or whatever to invest in making sure that they get a whole lot of new addicts from young people that they addict to this smoking. So, Joe Biden is saying, what if it was like that with the gun industry? And he was even saying that here's $1 billion industry, but they don't have to answer for anything. So, point being, you can't sue gun makers for gun violence, but you should be able to. If so many people over here died because of this AR-15 or whatever, you should be able to sue the manufacturer of that gun. That's the case that they're making with that. I'm not saying I even necessarily agree with that. I'm just saying that's the case that they're making with that. And they're saying that Or that's what Joe Biden was saying. What if it were like that with the cigarette industry or the tobacco industry? So that's a good point. That is what it is. We'll see what's up with that. But there's that. He's getting rid of that. He's saying these guys are going to have some liability for that. We'll see what happens with that. Also announced investment in intervention programs and comprehensive reporting on gun trafficking. We need that. That blows me away that there is no reporting on gun trafficking. That's huge. That's what all this is about. That's the way these kids and other people who shouldn't have them are able to get these guns so easily. Is to allow this gun trafficking and stuff. So it blows me away that they're not monitoring this the way that they should be doing. So they're going to be doing some comprehensive reporting on gun trafficking. Thank God for that. Prevention programs. I'm always talking about prevention here on Urban Politics. I always talk about that. Where they say an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. But in this country, we always get into that pound of cure because that's where the money's at. Don't nobody want to deal with that ounce of prevention. So that's garbage, man. Looks like Joe Biden said, let's, you know what I'm saying? Let's get on this ounce of prevention. See if we can get this together. So there's that. That's a great thing. He also wants to institute. Now, this is interesting right here. I'm not going to lie. Let me go ahead and read this to you. You know what I'm saying? You can let this rattle around in your brain. Once again, you're in the pushback zone. Feel free to push back anytime you want to. I would like to hear people's thoughts on this right here because I don't know about this legislation. Let me go ahead and bounce it off you. Okay, here's what Joseph Biden, let him go ahead and bounce it off of you. This is what Joseph Biden wants to do. Wants to institute so-called red flag laws where a policeman can petition the court to temporarily remove someone's firearm because they are a danger to themselves or to others. That's interesting right there. Now, I am not necessarily a gun advocate. I'm not a gun guy. I'm not against guns, but I'm not necessarily for guns. I have a lot of friends who have guns and they love guns. And that's fine. I'm not mad at that. But I'm just not a gun guy like that. But this right here is interesting because this would mean that a cop could sit somewhere, have beef with someone, or be threatening someone and say to themselves, I want to get rid of his gun so he has no defense. Make up a story. I'm playing devil's advocate here. I'm not saying this has happened or would happen. I'm just saying, go with me down this horrible road. You got a cop, got beef with a guy. He makes up a lie, says, this guy's crazy and he's a threat to himself and his neighbors, so we should take his firearms. They take his firearms for a matter of time. In that matter of time, this cop goes over there, does whatever he wants to this guy, and this guy has no defense because of this lie that this cop was able to make up, and this law made it easy for him to do that. Now, that's worst case scenario. Like I said, that's me playing devil's advocate. That is a horrible situation I'm painting there. But that is something that could become of this, potentially. If I'm thinking it, that means this is something that could happen. So I don't know how I feel about that. On the other side, I understand what he's saying here. How many times have there been these mass shootings where somebody goes in somewhere and kills a lot of innocent people and their neighbors are like, we knew that guy was off. Or friends are like, we told the police that he was off and he should be watched, but they took it for joke. They interviewed some people who said he's a great guy and so they left him alone. The other day, and now he goes into a daycare and murks a bunch of little kids. So that happens too, so I can understand that piece of it too. For that, you say, this law is great. A police officer or somebody should be able to see that somebody is under mental distress and be like, if he's got some firearms or some guns, we should confiscate them at least for a little bit of time till we figure out what's going on with this individual. I can see that side of it too. I can see both sides. So we'll see what happens with that. But that's something that Joseph Biden wants to do. Moving on, I want to move on to pop culture. We lost a legend. We lost an icon. We lost a real one, DMX, or Darkman X as I know him. You know what I'm saying? DMX. Wow. Seen him in concert years ago. I've seen him on it was a tour. It was a tour with Jay-Z because Jay-Z was one of the headliners and DMX came on before Jay-Z and he just blew it up. I've never seen such. There's only a couple of people. Well, probably him and Eminem. DMX and Eminem are the only two artists who I've ever seen who can do a show and every sounds exactly like it does on the album. I mean, ad-libs and everything. DMX, he was just full of energy. There were 3 stages. He was all over every stage. He, barking at us and everything. Whoa, whoa, here we go again. I used to love DMX. Let me say, like I said, the guy's a legend. He's a real one. He passed away on Friday. He was 50 years old. I have a heavy heart talking about that. Let me tell you. Only artist, a lot of people don't know this, to miss 2 VMA performances. He stood the VMAs up 2 times, which a lot of people will say that's negative, but I'm like, really, that's a testament to how big an artist he was. First of all, it's a big deal to get invited to perform at 1 VMA. But if something happened and you ended up standing them up for that first VMA, never in a million years, unless you were that dude when they invite you again and you got another chance to stand him up for the Video Music Awards at MTV. So there's that. That just shows you how good he was. That even though he's like, man, you screwed us over the first time. Can we have you back again? Because you're so good. We want you back again. And mess up again. But it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? DMX, he was that great that they probably would invite him back a third time. I don't think you get a third chance to do that, though, because that's huge. But if anybody would have, it would have been him. His first album is Dark and Hell is Hot, debuted at number 1. He also did some acting. He was Buns in Belly. That is a good movie, man. It was him and Nas, the guy Nasir. They were in it, and that's a movie, Belly. If you've never seen that, or you never heard of it or whatever, of course, after you're done watching this show, let your little fingers do the walking. You take yourself over there to the YouTube, and they probably got it over there for free. There's other outlets you can find it too, though. But that's a really, really good movie that he was in. Master P brought up a great point. Says that we need a hip-hop union. Like sports stars, he was saying a lot of these guys, they retire from the NFL or the NBA, and they go on to Sports Center. They go on to be like commentators and stuff like that. Your Charles Barkley's, your Shaquille O'Neal's. These guys, they retire and they go to these sports shows and they get to be pundits and wear nice suits and weigh in on games and all that good stuff. What happens to some of these, retired MCs, some of these rappers? Now, a lot of MCs, I would imagine, probably stop rapping, and then at that point, they have other investments that they've got into. I think a lot of new school MCs have learned from that, because they probably grew up seeing a lot of these older guys not having much to do once they were done rapping, because you can't rap forever. I guess at some point you have to be done with it. You could rap forever, There are some artists who are able to continue to just reinvent themselves. Snoop Dogg, what's that? That guy's, he's got to be 50, I think, or almost 50, if not 50. But he's able to reinvent himself. That's a talent in and of itself. Somehow he does that, and he's good at it. But not everybody can do that. So at some point you might be done being a rapper. What are you going to do? Done being an MC, what are you going to do? I think some of these guys, they own businesses. They probably go into that. I know, I think Big Boy from Outkast, I think he has like a thing where he sells dogs and stuff, gets into like pit bull breeding and stuff like that. These days, a lot of these younger MCs have fashion lines. They got all types of stuff they're into. I think Lil Wayne is like a sports manager. I think he manages some guys who play different sports and stuff like that. So they found different things to get into, knowing that one day I'm not going to be rapping. I need to find something to do. But Master P, that was a good point he brought up, because there needs to be a union or something like that. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but there is a union for the NFL. There's a union for the NBA. So when these guys are done, they still get a check. O.J. Simpson, he just got out of jail not too long ago, and I know nothing about sports, but I hear these stories or whatever, because I am a dude, and dudes like to talk to other dudes about sports. So, so it was telling me that they tried to take O.J. Simpson's pension, but they couldn't do that because he did play football. And when he got out of jail, they said he still got all that money that he gets from when he played in the NFL, because that's a part of the deal. You know what I'm saying? So that's something that he has there. Hip hop stars, rappers should have that as well, and that comes in the form of a union. So that's interesting that I would bring that up, because it leads right into my next topic, which is unions. Let's talk about them. Well, one specific example, in Bessemer, Alabama, they voted on a union for the Amazon there. There's an Amazon distribution center in Bessemer, Alabama. And they voted 738 to 1,798 against the union. That's interesting. Against the union. I guess there's a lot of different reasons for this. I had read some articles where there were people who worked at this Amazon, and they were saying that they were getting like text messages from Amazon or people representing Amazon saying that a union was bad and it'll just cost you more money and you really don't want to get involved in a union and all this type of stuff like that. So there's some of that. There's been negative propaganda about unions probably since the invention of unions. You know, that is what it is. It's always been like that. I'm going to tell you some of my, from a reference with unions. Back in the day, I worked at a UPS and they had a union there and people love the union at this UPS. A friend of mine, he had hurt his back and he told me, Ed, man, our insurance is so good here at this UPS. I went to the doctor and they were just throwing medication in my hand and they gave me all this different stuff for my back. And man, it was just real good because it's that insurance, man. They let us see us coming. Our insurance is so good. There was another guy who worked there. He had talked about how him and his wife had 3 children. 3 children, he said. And he said, we didn't have to pay a dime for it. Oh, it was all paid for, because our insurance is so good. And so there's that, you know what I'm saying, people. Now that's about the insurance, not necessarily about the union, but I bring that up too because unions can also help with insurance too, because sometimes, and a lot of times, unions end up putting that in the negotiation, how much insurance, how good the insurance is going to be. But another thing, when I worked at UPS, if you were management, you weren't in the union. Union was only for the workers, right? So there was a lot of guys who would work and then they would become eligible because they've been there so many years and did a good job or whatnot. They'd be eligible to become managers. But then a lot of them wouldn't do it. Why? Because they did not want to lose the union. They didn't want to lose that support. And that blew me away. But they had told me a lot of times it happened like that. They said, hey, there's been guys who've worked here. They were, they worked here for 3-4 years, were great workers. They got a promotion, ended up being managers, got into it with somebody over something that happened at the job, and then got fired because they didn't have that union support anymore. They were managers. So I don't want to lose the union. So there's that. You know what I'm saying? So, there's that. Years ago, I was at a little corner store not too far from where I lived in the hood, and I seen a little black kid, and he was taking or collecting signatures, and it was for some petition that was against unions. Now, I had to break it down to him because I just asked him, I said, do you know what a union is? And of course he's like, no. And I said, well, let me tell you, man, unions help workers. You know what I'm saying? Unions usually help work, or for workers' rights or make sure that workers have rights. And, I had to run it down to him. And I told him, this right here is probably not a good thing. You probably don't want to be getting signatures against unions. I said, your mom and dad, if they work at a place, you know what I'm saying, they're probably in the union. Unions help workers. Historically, minority folk are workers. We've been the backbone of America since we came here in 1619. Ask somebody. So point being, we're usually in these unions and unions help workers. So lo and behold, I think that little brother packed it up and didn't want to doing what he's doing no more. But I just had to, I had to give him the history of that because I knew he didn't know. He got hired by some people who are giving these little kids an hourly rate, a job, go out there and get signatures against something that they know are helping the people in that community. Yeah, these are the games that people play. These are the political games that politicians play, and sometimes they use little kids in the hood in front of a bodega. So there's that. But that's about all I got to say about unions. It's interesting, though, how I've also read articles about how horrible Amazon is. Horrible. Lately, what I've read, and you can go read this, I'm not hating on Amazon at all, but I had read an article and they were talking about people pooping in bags and peeing in bottles because they can't get bathroom breaks. For real? Who signed on for that? And I understand that, they got commercial where they talking about, we'll start you out at $15 an hour. And right now that's good money because a lot of places don't even want to pay people a livable wage. You know what I'm saying? Which is that $15 an hour. But, if you got to poop in a bag for $15, if you got to pee in a bottle, $15, $16, $17, $18, that's not enough money for that. That's ridiculous. Whatever happened to having some dignity at work? But these are type of stories I've heard coming out of Amazon, but yet you still have 1,798 people who think that's cool, obviously. 1,798 people who are like, yeah, I might have pooped in a bag, I might have peed in a bottle, but I still need this job and I don't want to mess with a union. That's just going to take more of my money. When that might actually give you a voice in your job. I don't know. Is that propaganda? Is that limited thinking by human beings? I don't know. You tell me. Once again, you in the pushback zone. Holla at your boy. Anyway, moving on. Let's talk about this stand your ground law in Ohio. First of all, the stand your ground law, they expanded it in Ohio with, shootings at an all-time high. They expanded it to not only person's home or car, but anywhere that person is in a place that they are lawfully have the right to be in. So basically, they expanded the law to not only a person's home or car, but anywhere that person is in a place that person lawfully has the right to be in. Want to make sure to get that wording right, because I guess that's the thing. They're saying that now stand your ground is not only about if I felt threatened at the house, but now you can be out anywhere. And if you feel threatened, if you're lawfully able to be in the place that you're at, a restaurant, a bar, wherever, long as you're there lawfully, and you feel threatened, now you can upheat on somebody and shoot them. We already have a record number of I almost said police shootings, but that's probably true too, but that's another story, of gun shootings or gun violence here in Franklin County. Then they signed this. Okay, so obviously I don't agree with it, right? So there's that. Ralph Carter of We Are Linden said it best. He said, hurt people hurt people. It's like a magnet for trouble. He feels the law will be misconstrued and cause more unnecessary violence. I think I agree with Mr. Carter, but that's me and him. That's me and him. Now check out this brother. Trey Reese, and how about I said brother, I mean that as human. He may or may not be, a brother, but my point is, check out what the brother said. Trey Reese, a gun owner who teaches gun safety, has a different view. He says the black community needs education on gun laws and how to use them. He said we could avoid all types of situations. Next on Carter's list is to help everyone understand this law. So there you go. So that was going back to my man Carter, who wants to help people understand this law. You know what I'm saying? Mr. Reese was saying that the black community needs gun education. I agree with that too. Yes, we need gun education. And you know what? Gun ownership for the black community, not a bad thing. I see people leave comments and stuff all the time. There's like the time when black people start getting guns and buying guns by the truckload. That's when you'll see some gun legislation. I hate to say it, but that's probably true. I'm not mad at that if that's what it takes, because I know a lot of black people just be getting guns just for the safety of it. You ain't gonna go out there and do nothing with it because we's a peaceful people. So some of us. But anyway, you know what I'm saying? I understand, you know what I'm saying? I feel that. So there might be something to that. A lot of my friends are, they're gun advocates, and that's what they always tell me. Guns ain't bad. You know what I'm saying? You just have to teach your kids to respect the gun and be safe around it. You just have to teach gun safety to whomever is going to be around the gun or be using the gun. So ain't nothing wrong with that. Like I said, I'm not a gun guy. I didn't grow up with guns. But at the same time, I also am not against guns, and I can understand, what do they say? I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Some of that. So I know what that's about. Anyway, moving on. The National Republican Congressional Committee says donors who opt out of monthly reoccurring donations, we will have to tell Trump that you are a defector. Wow. That blew me away. So I'm like, you going to tell their dad on them that they don't want to have him dipping into their account consistently every month for this $30, $40, $50, $500? Maybe some of y'all seen the news, maybe some of you didn't. I'm not even talking about it here like that, but you know what I'm saying? Or maybe I did last show. You know what I'm saying? I can't remember if I just read this story or reported on it, but point being, Trump was basically robbing his fans. You know, there were some people who had pledged, $300, $400, $500 today. Come to find out they didn't know in the fine print. It just keeps coming out of their account each month. Now he's saying, yeah, now you know about that, but how dare you get mad and cut it off? Because if you cut it off, you're a defector and you are not a supporter of Lord King Trump. Oh, my Lord. It's a shame that he has this type of power over some of these people, but that is the MAGA nation, and that is the Republican Party right now. So they need to, as my brother would say, get that fixed. Moving on. Last thing we're going to deal with is reparations, but I would call this half reparations, which means it's not full but it's half reparations. And why do I say that? Because Evanston, Illinois has $10 million to combat a history of discriminations. Or $10 million, yes, to combat a history of housing discrimination. $400,000 for housing grants and mortgage assistance. This is cool because, they're saying, and this is about reparations. This is about, trying to pay people back a little bit for housing discrimination. That's all well and good. But once again, when we're talking about reparations, don't go giving people money and then telling them how they got to spend it. That's not reparations. If you want to do reparations, you give people the money and then you back off and let them do what they need to do with it. Because they know better than you how they need to spend the money that you owe them. That's what people need to get through their heads. Reparations, you're not doing anything special for somebody. You're not doing anything special for black folk. That's money we are owed. Okay? This country was built on the backs of our people. We got nothing for it. Everyone's gotten reparations, but slave owners, I've talked about it on the show. I gotta say it again though, because it always blows me away. Slave owners got reparations from the government from the money that they missed through slavery being taken away. But the slaves can't get nothing? Really? Their ancestors can't get nothing? That's garbage. That's balderdash. So, we need to get that together and do better. But you know what? That right there, I will say, it's a brick in the wall. It's something. It's something. $10 million, you know what I'm saying? $400,000 going towards, helping with housing grants and mortgage assistance. It's something. That's cool. It's a brick in the wall. But at the end of the day, like I said, man, give the money to the people. The people know what they need to do. You don't know what the people need to do. There's that. Of course, before I get out of here, I have to talk about my IPA of the week. This right here, this platform, Haze Jude. This is the bomb. Haze Jude. Real good right here. This is Hazy Indian Pale Ale. It's from Platform. I want to say, yes, it's 6% alcohol. I talked about how, most beers are 5%. You get a nice IPA. It's probably going to be 6% or higher. This is delicious. It has notes of tropical fruit, pine, and grapefruit. So this is just good stuff right here, man. I'm gonna tell you what, the aftertaste is you could taste the grapefruit all in the aftertaste, kind of like Elvis Juice, one of the first IPAs that I reviewed here on the show, because that's a really good one too. But this is delicious. If you got a little bit of money in your pocket, you might want to holler at Platform's Haze Jude. Delicious. It's a good drink, ladies and gentlemen. Well, that is my time. I'm your humble host, Fizz Ed Music, and this has been Urban Politics. You know what's good, what's hood. If you ever want to drop me a line or say anything, you can always get at me, PHIZZEDMUSIC@gmail.com. I'm also on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook. That's what's up. So once again, you know what I'm saying? Be good to yourself and each other. Stole that from Jerry Springer. See you around like a donut.